Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the amazing Ben Dutill. Ben, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic, Ken. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm very honored to have you here. But before we start talking about why you're here, Ben, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. Ben was born in Frankfurt, Germany, and is known as the horror heathen due to his extensive knowledge of the horror genre. So in 2019, you decided to start the South Jersey Horror Podcast. What gave you the drive to want to create the podcast?
Um, I just moved back to New Jersey after being in the military for 15 years, and I was sitting in my living room. I just finished watching my favorite horror movie of all time, is John Carpenter's Halloween 1978, and I was like, I need to tell the public what I think about these movies. And I
Mhm.
was like, screw it, I'm gonna start a podcast.
Right. And I mean, it worked out for you because now you got the podcast, you have the YouTube channel. And on top of all that, you not only do you do, but you write, you edit, you produce, everything about the podcast is all done by you. Now in 2022 is when you started the Horror Heathen YouTube channel. What made you want to branch off from doing just the podcast into doing the podcast and the YouTube channel?
Well, it's a long story, but I'll make it brief. Um, I used to be a creator on TikTok, and I see a lot of actors and actresses, do their own stuff on TikTok. And I became friends with DJ Frenchie, he's a director for A24. So, I was like, I need to talk to actors and actors. How do I do that? He's like, I have a suggestion for you, man. Start an IMDb Pro account. And I was like, okay, I could do that. He's that way you could reach out to all these actors as publicists, get a hold of them, request to be on your show, and you could do videos of interviews. I'm like, that's exactly what I want to do. So the ergo, I created my IMDb Pro account, and I just went from there. Fingers crossed. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, I mean, and you guys can check out the YouTube channel. I have the links to everything: social media, YouTube channel, podcast, all down in the description. But you've had an amazing selection of guests over on your channel too, which is super impressive. And um, I know that from week to week, when you're giving these actors and actresses the credit and you're highlighting their career, how is the strike affecting you right now when it comes to interviews and stuff you want to do for the show?
Oh, it's tough, kid. It's really tough. Um, Getting the declination emails from publicists and managers, it breaks my heart. So it is what it is. I mean, and that's why I started to reach out to independent horror movie directors and actors because they're not affected by the strike at all.
Right.
So
And that's why, obviously we support the strike. We support not talking about struck work. That's why us as podcasters, we have to do our due diligence to make sure that we're not breaking any of those rules. Obviously, we're not going to get in any trouble, but they would. If we want to support the Screen Actors Guild, we want to make sure to show our support and not talk about any struck work. So, I mean, I appreciate everything you do, and I watch your channel. I listen to the podcast. We love what you do. So, thank you for taking your time out to come here and talk about this with us. But um, you talked about how you wanted to interview actors, actresses, directors, and stuff like that. Is there anything that you've learned from interviewing all these different people that you can take into working on your podcast?
acting is not easy. It's always-
See, and it's funny you say that because
Mm.
um, we talk about short horror films a lot and how a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's just an easy way out." Man, you got a lot of work when you're doing a short horror film to make people fall in love with your characters in 17 minutes. You know,
Yeah,
so and you've talked to a lot of people about short horror films and stuff like that, and it's just amazing to watch your channel grow, man. I'm super happy for you and everybody watching. Like I said, I have those links down in the description. So make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're following Ben on social media so you can become a part of his family. Check out some of the people he's interviewed. It is fucking amazing to see the selection of people that he's had on the show. I'm envious of some of the people you've had, dude. It's really cool to watch you grow. And like I said, we're friends. I'm a fan of what you do. So it's really amazing to watch the growth of your channel. And I can't wait to see it continue to grow and grow, man, because you deserve it. You work your ass off.
I appreciate that, Ken. I really do. That's awesome to say that.
No, of course, man. So in order for you, to do South Jersey horror, or for you to be the horror heathen, horror had to start for you somewhere, my friend. So now, Ben, I would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Ben,
Excuse
the
me.
first horror movie that you watched was.
A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Now, I just want to clarify for the people in the back. We're talking about 1984, the OG, right?
Yes, Wes Craven. Yes.
Okay. What an amazing way to start your horror life. I think anybody that knows me knows I say this is the best horror film of all time. It's not my favorite, but I think this is, in my humble opinion, the greatest horror film ever made. And if you take out the last 5 minutes of this movie, it's in the running for best movie ever made. I love everything about this film. So, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
Oh God, I was living in Hawaii. 9 or 10 is when I first saw the movie.
Wow. And I do want to say, because I was going to say it earlier, and we just got so much into horror that I forgot. Thank you very much for your service. We know we support our military men and women, and we know that when you're out there, it's not just you out there; it's your family out there worrying with you. So thank you for all you did for the country. We appreciate you so much. It does not go unnoticed. Thank you. I just wanted to throw that out there again real quick. So we know that you were a young man living in Hawaii when you dipped your
I
toes into Freddy water for the first time. But do you remember who you were watching it with the first time you had seen it?
was by myself.
Oh God,
It
that's
was
even
like it
better.
was it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was a Saturday morning. Parents were asleep. We had cable, and I couldn't fall asleep for some reason. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna see what was on HBO at the time, and it just happened to be A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I was like, dude, I've got to watch this. And just for the record, being a young kid, watching a horror movie, I did get scared afterwards. I was afraid to fall asleep.
I
I
think we
had to
all
watch a
did.
Dis I had to watch a Disney movie afterwards just to get that in my head.
Well, especially with Nightmare, because you fall asleep and that's when you're in trouble.
Yeah,
That's when the
right.
real trouble starts. So, a movie that is beyond iconic in a lot of different ways. But which scene would you say it was that affected you the most?
Oh. Wes Craven dubbed it as the poltergeist scene, where Tina's getting thrown around the room, with the walls, the ceiling. And that right there is what caught my attention. Like the special effects were effing amazing. And so it was like the makeup, everything was phenomenal. And I was like, dude, this is what I love. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just that I had to go back and watch like 5 or 6 more times just
Yeah.
to get like this is fantastic. And I
And
was like,
what
that's when I fell in love with it.
And the older you get, the more you appreciate the practical effects of this film. I've often said as well, this is in my top three practical effect horror movies of all time, right with American Werewolf and The Thing. I think it's hard to put any movie above those when it comes to practicality. I mean, the waterbed, rod up the jail cell. Like there's so many different things in this movie that are practically done that look so good. And it's amazing to watch these things now as an adult that understands film and understands cinema. The low budget this movie was to be able to do the things they did. Wes Craven and that team were just absolutely amazing. So we know that the Tina kill, the poltergeist up the wall scene, is what affected you the most. But what would you say your favorite scene from the film is?
When he has his arms stretched out in the alley. That scene scared the living, pardon my language, scared the shit out of me, dude.
Yeah, dude. Still to this day, that again, it just looks so good. Like it
Yeah.
looks damn good, and it's such an effective scene. Like, gosh, I'm so in love with this movie. I could talk about this movie all day, every day. It's just a film that I love very, very much. And now it is a part of a bigger franchise. Obviously, there's a lot of Nightmare movies. I believe we're up to 8 Nightmare films now with Wes Craven's New Nightmare and the remake. Um, of the franchise, which one would you say is your favorite?
I love the Dream Warriors Part 3. It's fantastic. I had the chance to interview Ken Sagal's about his role in that movie. It was such a fabulous interview. And when I told him that my friend Jason was a huge fan of his, he literally said, "Hey, what's his number? I'll call him right now." I was like, "Okay, we're doing this." It's like,
That's
and I
awesome.
had I emailed his number, and he's like, I'm not gonna give his number out over the interview. So I emailed Ken his number, and Ken called him on the phone and said, "Hey, what's up?" Unfortunately, my friend Jason was sleeping, so he got the voicemail at least.
Ah,
I
that's still
was like,
amazing, though.
you better save that voicemail, dude.
Right? He should have been like, "Take that, motherfucker!" Like that would have been even
Right?
better. I fucking see. My personal favorite is the Dream Master. Like I love the Dream Warriors, and I love what the Dream Warriors did. But the Dream Master is the one I watched the most as a kid. So like going back and like I don't know, there's just something about the Dream Master that really, really I dig. I think that the first one is probably like I said one of the best ever made, but the Dream Master is just something special for me. So um, we did get the remake treatment with Nightmare back in 2010. Now, obviously, with remakes, requel sequels, all the rage in Hollywood. Would you like to see them take another attempt at a Nightmare on Elm Street with a requel or another remake?
As long as they don't pick the same guy to play Freddy, it'll be good. All the other actors were great in the movie. I love every single one of them. But I forgot the guy's name.
Jackie Earl Haley.
Something. Yeah, that guy. See, I can't remember his name. He left no impression on me whatsoever.
See, it's
But
weird for me because like I feel like when it comes to being Freddy Krueger, Jackie was the better choice. And the reason I say that is I like Robert as Freddy. I love Freddy when he's on screen as Robert. When Jackie's on screen, I hate him. I think he's disgusting. I think he's despicable. And that's how I'm supposed to feel about the villain. Um, so I'm torn on it. Like, I think that his performance as Freddy, there's only so much you could do with what was written. But I would like to see them take a stab at it, not so much with a remake, but maybe continue the story from maybe do the Halloween treatment and erase 2 through whatever and make a direct sequel from part 1 with Heather Langenkamp older as Nancy now. I would love to see them do something like that
yeah,
now.
like 40 years later or something like that, like they did in Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing Heather Langenkamp come back as Nancy, sign me up. Sign me up. I would love to see her come back in that role. Um, and like I said, Nightmare is something that I'm surprised has laid dormant for so long. But hopefully, once the estate gets all established and everything's the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, we can get some more Freddy. Because even if we did like another TV show like Freddy's Nightmares and just did something like that again, I want some more Freddy in my life. So we know that A Nightmare on Elm Street is where horror started for you, and while the kills are few and far between, there is not an underabundance of quality of the kills in Nightmare on Elm Street. So we know that Tina up the wall was kind of the most effective scene for you, but what would you say your favorite kill from A Nightmare on Elm Street is?
Johnny Depp being pulled in waterbed. That was the most brutal one ever, next to Tita's kill.
Yeah,
Him just being kind of the blood just gush out. I was like, dude, that is like a fountain of blood.
it's one of
I'm
those
still
things where the
wondering,
first time you see it, you do not forget it.
and I can't imagine how much fake blood they went through to make that scene. I
Right.
mean, it's a lot.
And it looks again practical, all done 100% practical, and it's just something that I absolutely adore. One of my favorite scenes in all of cinema, because again they had such a small budget for this film, so to be able to pull that off practically and make it look so good, I'm in. So you said it earlier, but I still got to ask because it's part of my script, and if we go off script, it
Mm.
throws off the flow. um Nightmare on Elm Street is how horror started for you, but now my little buddy Ghostface is here and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Ben? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Hands down, John Carpenter's Halloween 1978. I am a huge fan of Michael Myers. I wish I could show you my entire room. My entire room is all Michael Myers Halloween stuff. It's fantastic. I've read every backstory, every fan theory about the franchise. There are some movies I don't agree with, but how they were done, or the different time hops and the different timelines and the loopholes. It's oh my god, or the plot holes. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. So it's the original 78 is my all-time favorite.
I mean, it's hard to argue. It's the prototypical slasher. I'm not a huge fan of the Halloween franchise. I came into Halloween a little later in life. I started with Friday and Nightmare. I came into Halloween a little later, but now as an adult, I think Halloween, the OG, it's a masterpiece. I rib my wife a lot because that's Ashley's favorite franchise. I talked to her about how it's a snore fest and how it's boring, just so I can poke at my wife. But if somebody came up to me and said, Ken, how would I make a slasher film and make it done well? I would show them Halloween. You give just as much attention to your villain as you do your hero. Now, again, I love Psycho. I love Black Christmas '74 is one of my all time. Like, I think it's such a dope movie. But we don't get enough Billy in that movie. We don't get enough of Norman in Psycho. But in Halloween, we get an equal amount of Laurie and Michael. We get to learn both their stories. We get to understand both of them. And then from there, we got Freddy, we got Jason, we got Chucky. That's when it really started to explode with these slashers that were coming out. And they were all prototypes of what Halloween did. They put their own spins on them. They were original films. But without Halloween, those wouldn't have existed. So anytime someone tells me Halloween's their favorite film, you're never going to hear me argue with it. I get it. Well, like I said, as a younger, when I was a kid, I thought the movie was awful. But again, I'm watching Freddy, putting people through TV saying "Welcome to primetime, bitch." I'm watching Chucky, you've been naughty, Mrs. Kettlewell, and then I'm watching Michael just stabby, stabby, stabby. And I'm like, this is fucking
Huh.
boring, man. But then you get older and you become a fan of film and film theory and stuff like that, and the way John Carpenter did Halloween is just such a fantastic film, and he's an amazing director. Everybody talks about the main score, the piano stuff, but the score throughout that whole film is just absolutely insane. Like even the absence of score throughout that film, John Carpenter is just a fucking genius, and I love how he's inventive. Like still to this day, he's doing things with score, like with Halloween 2018, doing amazing things with that score. Running a violin over a distorted guitar, like violin bow. I'm sorry, he didn't take a violin and do it. A violin bow over a distorted guitar to get some sound effects. Like he's just super inventive, and I appreciate him because without him, horror wouldn't be what it is today.
Believe it or not, the Halloween theme song is actually not my favorite song score in the movie.
Really,
It is there's a score called Laurie's Theme. That
mm-hmm.
is the creepiest song ever for that franchise.
That's
I don't know if you
awesome.
ever heard of it or not, but to get a chance, it's called Laurie's Theme. That will make your skin crawl. Just saying, dude.
I'll have to check it out. Is it from the OG film?
Yes.
Then I have to have it because I have the Halloween score on cassette tape. Like that's how long I've had the score for. I
Oh
still have the
wow,
cassette.
that's awesome.
Yeah, the cassette. I'll find it when we're done here so I can show it to you. But man, Ben, I've had an amazing time talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, talking about Halloween and what these movies mean to you. And before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question. We're gonna go back to Nightmare on Elm Street, and what we're gonna do here is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. What we're doing here is strictly ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, zero skulls being not effective, five being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Ben, what would your ranking of Nightmare on Elm Street be?
So leaving out the production, the acting, the dialogue, special effects, and all that other stuff set aside, honestly, I would give it a four
Mhm.
because it obviously, like I said, that's what got me into horror. So
Yeah.
it all these other movies were stemmed from Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's just fantastic. It still left an impression on me, and I've been trying so hard to get Robert Englund on my show, which is never going to happen.
Dude, I get it. That's the holy grail, man. Him and Bruce Campbell. Those are the holy grails. Tony Todd, Bruce Campbell, Robert Englund. Those are the holy grails for me, man.
Almost had Tony Todd at one point. I
Oh,
messaged him on Instagram, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And this was back in February. I was trying to do it for Black History Month, but I got Ken Staghouse instead. So Tony was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And that was the last time I ever heard from him. I was like, "Son of a bitch, this really
yeah.
sucks."
What a bummer. Um, well, man, I know I said it at the beginning, guys, but we're at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, I have all of Ben's social media links, podcast link, and YouTube link all in the description. So make sure you're following him on social media. Make sure you're subscribing to the podcast and to the YouTube channel so you can become a part of his family as well. Ben, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know, and follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. All our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.